Welcome back to the spiritual journey. It has been a while. I feel like I've had a bit of a time out. The word that came to mind earlier was a hiatus from recording some interviews. But this week, I would really like to welcome Dale Tobin as our guest speaker. So welcome, Dale.
Hello, Lindsay. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. So
Good.
Dale is a psychic surgery practitioner, Reiki teacher, father of 5. Is that correct? Six. Father of 6. Yeah, husband.
5 + 1.
And very much, I feel, a role model, I feel, for young men in the community. And in terms of the work that you do, I feel like you're sharing your message on you. You've got your own YouTube channel as well, which I've been on, the Talk and Stick show. And yeah, just spreading general seeds of spiritual awareness, I feel.
Yeah, so I've been on the spiritual journey since 2012, where I had a visitation from my ancestors. I was shown it was very strange. I was going through a process in my life where I was going out partying and stuff like that, taking LSD and kind of really trying to figure out who I was. Before that, I went through a relationship where I was for 4.5 years. I went through that split, and that caused a deep trauma in me, where I was looking for love, I was looking for affection, I was looking for something to really fill that void. So I had that experience in 2012, which led me to a lady called Jeanette, where I had my first Reiki session. And as soon as I laid on that table, I was it felt like I was home in a kind of a way, and I kind of could feel myself. And I was always looking for myself, but I was looking outwards, and I was like, right, how can I find myself? I was doing all sorts of things at the time. So I had the experience where my ancestors visited me, showed me messages, and that kind of gave me a nudge and a push to go on the spiritual path and go through my trials and tribulations. So I've suffered from addictions and trauma, and I've overcome them from spirituality. And one of the biggest things for me is about being honest with people and about being honest with myself. The first 4 years of my spiritual journey, I wouldn't say I lied, but I wasn't telling my truth. I wasn't telling my story. And it came to the process of having so many kids, going through the responsibility of looking after them, growing up, being more grounded here. If you would have spoke to me 6 years ago, I was kind of like up and everywhere and a bit ungrounded at the time. But so it's been a process of me learning angelic Reiki to start with. Then I figured out I was doing other things like psychic surgery, past life regression. I learned hypnotherapy and ceremony as well from Native American teaching. Ceremony has really helped me become who I am in this present moment of the now.
So can we just go back? So when you say that the ancestors came through and showed you messages, was that like a dream that you had where they visited, or what did that look like? Because sometimes people often ask, they're like, how can I see the messages? Where are the messages? Where are the signs? So how did they come through to you in that time?
So it was a visualization. So there's been a few experiences for me which really stand out. The first one was the ancestors, by seeing them through my third eye, showing me messages. There was 4 of them, and they were like rainbowy beings, and it made me laugh because the way they moved reminded me of myself. They were kind of like dancing, but like in this really flowy way of like, even the way they were walking, they were like just dancers. And they showed me this like message board. It was kind of like a square board with Egyptian symbols, and it was going up and down really fast, these Egyptian symbols, like galactic language, and they're holding the board. And I was like, me back then in that moment, I was trying to understand it all, and I was like, right, this is just a bit too much. I don't understand what you're doing. But I got really upset when that was closing, because I was like, oh, I love you. And obviously that spirit world was shown to me, where I was like, that showed, like, kind of planted a seed in me where there was something going on. And there's a really funny story. 2 years after that, I was on the toilet at Fillmore and Union in my job in Harrogate. And I was literally on the toilet with my hands like this down there, really, like I didn't want to be there. I was at work, or I was serving in a restaurant. I was so unhappy, and I put my hands down like that, and all of a sudden this kind of like green mandala came in front of me, and this kind of angelic ancestry looking being was shown, and a face came right up to me really slowly and was staring at me. And this was while I was having a wee, like in the restaurant industry. And I was like, and it was kind of like spirit was knocking on the door saying, yes, yes, we are here still, and you have to be able to go through your own process and heal.
Yeah, because sometimes they show up, don't they, when, well, like you said, when we're least expecting them, don't they? Do you know what I mean? And so sometimes people see them, don't they, like you said, in your mind's eye. But with that first one, you know, you mentioned that you were sort of like, you've been taking LSD and everything. So did you just think, oh my God, I'm like, it feels like I'm tripping?
No, so there was...
Had you already come off all of that?
Yeah, it just felt like a trip. I didn't take LSD at the time, but it was kind of like when I was in that state, I was using stuff like LSD and stuff like that to really go on journeys. Like, I used to be so bizarre with what I used to do. I used to do it, and I used to meditate, and I used to try and get out my body, and it made me into a bit of a wizardy, trippy wizardy, where I was like, right, I kind of love this journey, and like, I'll take this and I'll go out my body and I'll go do things and I'll see all these visualizations and so on and so forth. But that was a point of my life where I needed that. I wouldn't say it was medicine, but it was a medium for me to see the spiritual world. And I know that I was spiritually contracted to take those drugs, to do that process, to go through those hard times, to bring me who I am today, and for me to be where I am.
Mm-hmm. So when you said as well about having that first Reiki session and it felt like home, so can you describe sort of like how that maybe shifted things, or how that changed you as a person?
So from the Reiki session afterwards, I just remember smiling, and she just said, she goes, oh, I could see before you came to this planet. I think she was going on about like the Pleiadian connection, and I didn't understand it back then. And so she just said about that I was obviously here to be a healer, so on and so forth. And she rang me 2 days later saying I've got a Reiki training weekend, 2 weekends after. And I just jumped at it, and I did that. I did the 1 and 2 probably about 3 times. Then I did the 3 and 4 about 4 times. And I just kept going back to it and back to it and back to it. And there was a moment which is just I've just remembered, where in one of the Reiki attunements as well, there was another being which came. It was again a green aura, and it was just staring at me in the face. It started filling up the room, and she just came, and it was kind of like, I'd say a divine, a feminine archetype being, which came up to me and just staring at me. And still then I was working, I was in the restaurant, I was unhappy. And it's taken me a long, long time through self-healing, self-nurturing to really break away from the restaurant industry and go into the healing as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think Reiki's like, it feels to me, it's like a gentle gateway into opening up to everything else. That's how I sort of started as well. I was like, I went for a Reiki session and then decided to learn it, and it just opens you up, doesn't it, to everything else that's going on in terms of energy and vibration and everything else. So then from learning Reiki, then you mentioned ceremonies as well. So how did you go from Reiki to ceremonies? How was that transition?
So I did ceremony at some point, probably about 5-6 years ago. There was a gentleman called Andrew Bartis who talked about ceremony. Probably about 4 or 5 years ago, looking into Native American teachings, the first side of it, I was onto like the angelic Reiki, the Reiki meditation. And all of a sudden, this inner knowing, this inner energy came in me when I had a ceremony, and I was like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. I'm here amongst the fire. So the way I see ceremony is, it's a process to connect to the infinite universe. It's a process which you go through to be able to let down, protect the space, be vulnerable, because vulnerability is something which I really had a problem with at the start, of being vulnerable and open with who I am, how I'm feeling, so on. So the ceremony gave me a space to be vulnerable and figure out my shadowy sides, figure out my unhealed parts, speak to my ancestors, speak to the fire, use a drum and really connect to the universal force, connect to the actual natural rhythm of the Earth Mother. I feel that sometimes a lot of us are so distracted with phones, so on and so forth, and it's so good to have a ceremony because it brings you back to that natural way of being.
Yeah, I posted, I think it was on Facebook, I went out last night, so I'd been working, I got in at 9:30, and the moon was so beautiful, so I thought, right, I'm going to take myself out for an evening stroll. And as I was walking along the river, in my mind, I could just see all these women dancing. I thought, you can see why people would dance under the full moon. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
and have those sorts of ceremonies, because it feels like, in terms of, like I said, like rhythms, do you know what I mean, and cycles, and really getting in tune with Mother Earth and what's going
yeah.
on. So how did you find that learning about ceremonies really helped you then?
Okay, so first of all, there was a process called talking to the fire, which I recommend for everyone to do. So it's where you go to a fire, sacred fire, you pray over the wood, you honor the wood you're burning, you create a sacred space, you protect the space, and you try and remember the first memory you can ever remember as a child, and you start telling your story to the fire. And from you telling your story to the fire, what the fire does, it opens up a portal of healing, and it actually sucks and clears away dense energy and trauma from your body. So once I did that talking to the fire was communicating to me, and I could see a different side to the fire. I could see the fire was a shaman. It was an ancient shaman, and it was here as a medium to the elemental force for me to tell my truth to. And it really shifted in me, because I could really feel my words going into the fire, and the fire in communion, union with me, sending me healing back, saying, I am here, sharing my truth with you, and I love you, and you are safe. And from having that connection to the fire, that really helped me gauge and understand a lot about myself, and understand about the universe. The fire is always in truth. It's not lying. It's always there, constantly in truth. So the fire gave me a lot of teaching and inspiration. And through that, it gave me an understanding of ancestors as well, that everyone has ancestors, and the ancestors are those who are related to us in our DNA memories, our past lives, so on and so forth. So there was a lot of ancestors who have helped me and really helped me integrate with who I am. And I've experienced lots of shadowy stuff, Knight, Templar stuff, warrior stuff in past lives, which I've had to come to some sort of resolution with, because it was holding me back. It was putting me into programs. That was one thing what ceremonies helped me with, is get me out of the Agent Smith and go into the natural flow, like we talked about before.
So just if anyone's watching this and they don't understand what the shadowy stuff is, can you just sort of explain that a little bit about,
Yeah.
and how do people recognize it?
So the shadow part, so say when you wake up and all of a sudden you get annoyed about something, just feel what you're getting annoyed about and what side of you is coming out. I tend to find a lot of humans operate in the program mode, and they're not actually in the body, in the I am presence. So say if you actually you get angry at your kids, which I get annoyed with my kids, I'm a human being, but I have a program that comes into me, and it's my dad, and it's not me. The I am presence has gone away, and this program comes in. So listen to yourself. If you get annoyed, or you get really bitter, if you get jealous, so on and so forth, or any of these traits, these are shadowy sides and parts of ourselves which haven't been loved, haven't been nurtured since we were born, because the world we grow up in is full of dark, light, and in between. It's full of trauma, it's full of negativity, it's full of positivity, it's full of love, not love, so on and so forth. So the shadowy side of ourselves is a side which we've created through lack of awareness and a lack of nurturing, and a lack of someone, a teacher, our father, our mother, saying, this is how you be a human. You learn ceremony, you learn how to live with the land. You don't watch Hollyoaks, you don't watch Coronation Street every day. You have to go out and you have to understand and listen to the universe and find your own universal song and truth. So the shadowy side is a part of us which has been neglected, and a part we have created for our own ego, our own programs. So for everyone listening is, understand when your programs are talking, and understand when you're talking the I am presence. And through ceremony, the I am presence is fully there in the truth and in the flow. Like I'm speaking now, my I am is here. But say if the kids are getting all crazy and it all goes a bit confusing, program will come into me, and I'll be program mode where I'm just going around cleaning and doing all this. And the I am presence, the actual soul's not there anymore. You're just this the program's just fully taken over. So it's understanding what's program, what's your real self, what's your truth. And a lot of people get so scared about themselves, because when they're in program mode, they don't forgive themselves, they don't nurture themselves. So they get rid of they push the I am presence away. So they don't do the ceremonial work. They're just angry most of the time, because they're in ceremony. It's vitally important for us to get out of the program mode, go into our heart, and really feel our heart and feel our body, feel how we're feeling, feel the human, the soul inside ourselves.
Okay. And then, so you meant, so we said you're a psychic surgery practitioner as well. So can you explain a bit more about what that is as well?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So the psychic surgery, so when I do a session, as well as I'm doing the hands-on healing where I'm going around, but I'm physically, psychically scanning the person and looking for blocks of energy. So going back to my client the other day, I could see she had a lot of redness. She was a red ray being where her aura was lots and lots of different colors of red. So I was going around psychically scanning the energy field and clearing away any negative webs, any blockages from it. And I connect to a universal source as well. I call in the 7 directions, the east, the south, the west, and the north, above and below and within. So we are fully protected before we do it. And what I'll do is I'll understand their contracts. I'll be speaking to their ancestors, my higher self, my ancestors, and I'll have a reading for them as well after if there's anything which they need to know. So it's kind of like once I start bringing this energy through, it's like my past life memories come in as well, and lots of different things go on, like body healing, so on and so forth. So Reiki for me was my first starting point for me to go into my own process of psychic surgery, where I'm scanning the person, I'm bringing soul shards back as well, I'm clearing the field with plant medicine, so on and so forth.
Yeah, because it was interesting after the session that I had with you, and I think it was you'd picked up on my shoulder, which was hurting, and then you said about that I needed to go to a sacred site, didn't you? And I was like, oh, I feel like I need to go to Glastonbury, and like a week later I was like, I'm in Glastonbury. I find it absolutely fascinating, you know, and I still like how we can sort of like do this work, and we don't have to be with them, do it, you know, you can do it via distance. So someone could be sort of like in Timbuktu, and you would be able to do that sort of like psychic surgery on them, wouldn't you, by connecting and speaking to.
That's it. It's one of those things, like you say, everyone can pick it up, and everyone. It's one of the biggest things with everyone as well is self-trust. A lot of people don't trust themselves enough to hear the messages or hear their ancestors. So going back onto the trust, a lot of people don't have trust with themselves. So they'll go, oh, can you tell me the name of my guides and my guardians? But because of their lack of trust, they've not been able to really zone in on themselves and trust themselves with what they're saying. A lot of people have this disbelief from themselves that what they're saying is garbage. My own personal reference would be, if anybody wants to speak to their spirit guides, is send them a letter, write to them and ask them, how can you communicate to me? A lot of people communicate through vision or sound or something on the TV. There'll be messages or dreams, so on and so forth. So yeah, so it's all about trust. The psychic surgery, it's all about trusting myself and knowing that it is real. I'm not just chatting absolute breeze when I'm saying you're from this planet and this planet. And my ego sometimes will come in and tell me, oh, I'm sure that I don't think that's right. And that's, again, the doubt. And once you start trusting doubt, your reality becomes so imbalanced.
Definitely. And I think it's, for us, it's like if someone comes to you for healing, it's for the person to receive that information, even if it, like you said, when you went for Reiki and the lady was telling you about Pleiadians, back then you were like, I've got no idea what she's talking about. Do you know what I mean? And it's for us, like you said, we have to speak our truth, and we have to be able to share exactly what's come up, even if to our mind we think, oh my God, it's not going to make any sense. But it's like you have to say it, don't you? Because to withhold it feels like you're doing that person like what's the word? Not like a misduty, but you're not doing your duty of service. Does that make sense?
Definitely. And that's like you, when I had my session with you, you were just in the natural flow of yourself, just there kind of in your space, not holding yourself back by your own self-doubt and your own self-ego. So yeah, it's so important for us to have that trust with us. Everybody can do psychic surgery if they choose to do it. Everyone can do this. And it's about having an understanding that we're all here to do our own roles. We're all here to help certain people or help ourselves, so on and so forth. So trust is very, very, very important. If you don't have the trust, then you won't be able to work with the spirit, because the spirit will be giving you messages. The spirit will be pushing you to progress. And if you don't trust yourself, you won't be able to create, and you won't be able to move forward spiritually.
And I think in terms of like with spirit guides as well, I think sometimes it's like it feels like there's this myth out there, if you like, which is like, right, everyone's got a spirit guide and you'll be able to see them and they'll be able to talk to you just like a neighbor. But they're not like that, are they? I mean, when I had my first experience, it took me 6 weeks of listening to a meditation, waiting for a spirit guide to come through. And all of a sudden, I just got this face of a Native American Indian in front of me. And I was like, oh, finally, you've come through. And I said to him, I said, why am I here? And he said, to inform, to educate, and to teach. And I was like, to teach what? And he just laughed and disappeared. And I was like, what? So they can be quite cryptic as well, can't they? They can have a sense of humor. But I think it's definitely like, I think if you focus too much on wanting to see what you feel is a spirit guide and what they look like, that can sort of detract really from the experience.
Definitely. And that's so beautiful that you say that, because that brings you on to another a level of trust, is not expecting. Expectation is a limitation, and as soon as you expect, you're blocking yourself from an infinite experience. You're blocking yourself from the universe. As soon as you expect to speak to your spirit guide, as soon as you expect to have Palladians come down and show you messages, that will stop your aura, that will stop your connection to the great receiving and feeling and receiving of the universal harmonic song coming through the universal song of the heartbeat of the planet. Once we expect, we withdraw from the creation. And expectation, for me, even anxiety, when people deal with anxiety and they go to a group in a room, before they go there, they're expecting themselves to have a bad experience, or expecting someone to say something. Again, they've just completely shattered all over their belief. They've shattered all over the future, because they're expecting things. But how can you truly expect when you're not being the observer? You're not actually feeling how you're feeling in the present moment, but always trying to expect, I'm going to feel like this, I'm going to say this, I'm going to be nervous. All these things of expectation.
Yeah. And like I just shared with you before we started recording, you know, after with my Glastonbury trip, and I don't generally have expectations, but I did think, oh, you know, that's where people go and it's a spiritual transformation. And I said to you on the final day, I was sat there going, right, I don't feel any different, universe, you know, why am I here? And I was told, you know, it's not about you, Lindsay, you know, it's about the place. And it was that Glastonbury needed you there for a reason. So, you know, I was like, okay, duly noted, thank you. Stop having my expectations.
I still have them. I still got my expectations, and I have to say to myself, no expectations when I'm going into my work. I'm not expecting for a great mystical experience to happen. So many people never have mystical experiences because they're expecting it all the time. They're like waiting for the miracle, waiting for this, but they're not just in their truth, in their natural rhythm, receiving the energy from the land, receiving the energy from the water, the fire, or the elements, so on and so forth. So going back to the ceremony is another way to gauge where you can really be present in the moment. You can be present in your heart. You can be present with the feelings. You can listen to your ancestors if you have the trust with you and you're not in expectation mode. A lot of people, if you want to have communication with I don't like using the word, that's the wrong word to use. If you want to have communication with different frequencies of light, it's about not having an agenda, not knowing you're female, you're male, but just knowing you're in your own flow and you're in your own space. I'm not Dale, a man who's 31 years old, because if I have that mentality, they will not communicate to me. But as soon as I have a non-agenda where I realize I'm spiritual, I'm a male and female, I'm everything inside myself, I'm not expecting, you're there in your own flow, and you can perceive and connect to them easier, and they can perceive you, because they'll be looking at us from a different reality, different dimension. They don't understand our Roman numeral time. The way they see time is universal time. So we're kind of limited where we have to kind of detox from time. We have to detox from expectation to really go into our own flow, to feel the ancestors, feel the star brothers and sisters. And they are here waiting for us to come into this space of unity. But we're a long way from that at the moment with what's going on, so on and so forth.
So what is your view around what is going on at the minute in terms of from a spiritual perspective?
Sorry, I get hiccups.
That's all right.
When I start moving, it's when I start moving energy, or I start getting hiccups all the time. Like after a ceremony, afterwards, I'll just be hiccuping for ages. But so my view at the moment is, from my perspective of this virus, I do believe it's a virus created not from man, not from a lab, but it's a karmic retribution virus, and it's here to start the great change. And what, from my own perspective, I do believe the world is starting to come into a place. We're at the early start of it, but say 30, 40 years from now, I do believe this world's going to be so different, so different, to the point where we will not be able to, we'll be like, wow, because the lies are finally coming to surface. Our perception of ourselves, our trust from ourselves is coming back to us, where we can see what's light, see what's dark, see what needs to be, not in our manifestation, our world anymore. So I do believe everything at the moment is karmic retribution. So everything has to have a balance, and with the people who die from corona, there's some sort of karmic resolution on their ancestral side of things. So I do believe that this is a positive thing. What's happening at the moment, it's only going to cause more positivity, more people to awaken. But we're only at the start. We're very, very at the start line. And the finish line, I wouldn't say it's a finish line, the infinite line is a potential in the future, which is, again, one of the teachings I love is the Native American teaching about the fifth world of peace, where they've predicted the fifth world of peace will happen soon. And it's a place where all the clan members of the earth come together and break bread and share space together again, drop their ego, drop the competition, and actually come together and experience unity consciousness.
Fabulous. So if someone wants to come to you, like why would someone want to come and see a psychic surgeon?
So say if you're sad, you're down, you feel like there's attachment, you feel like your dream world's being drained, you can't sleep. A lot of people come to me. A lady came to me at the Wellbeing in York, and she didn't sleep for months, and after the session she finally had an actual deep sleep. So I help people regain their dream space, as well as a psychic surgery. I give spiritual counseling, because I'm understanding the mechanics of the dream world and where we go out from dream, and how important the gut health is to dream and have powerful dreams, how important it is for our bedrooms to be clear, for us to be able to remember the dreams. So for anybody who experience lack of sleep, depression, sadness, rage, I really help people unwind and really feel their ancestral connection, because everyone here has an ancestral connection. A lot of us come to this lifetime with debt from our ancestors. I've had lots of clients who have, there's a curse, there's a curse on a lineage. Have you ever seen the, those like kind of shields with loads of different animals on? What's the word? I'm trying to think of it, what it's called now. I've completely forgot. It's, when you look in, so sometimes you can look into your lineage and some of the names have all these shields on.
Oh yeah.
What's the name I'm trying to remember? It's completely disappeared from me. But yeah, so that's a curse. So you get loads of different types of things on the lineage. So some past lives, say 6 lifetimes ago, something really bad happened to you, and that ancestral debt is passed down from lineage to lineage to lineage until you, as a resolving person, have to balance it and have to have some sort of resolve.
I think it's absolutely fascinating for me. Like, I love seeing in terms of like the past life stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you're open to the fact that you've been here before, then there's reasons why you're going through certain things, or certain people are in your life. And it's like, I did a past life reading for a lady yesterday, and she'd cursed people in the past who were causing her problems in this lifetime.
There you go.
And it's like, oh my days.
Family crest, that's it.
That's it, well done, yes.
Yeah, there we go. I don't know why that from my head. But for everyone listening, if you can look into your ancestry stuff, and if you have someone in your ancestral lineage who's got a family crest, that means there's a curse put onto your lineage, where a majority of the cases are people who are sexually abused, sexually tortured and stuff like that. 9 times out of 10, those people have the family crest dark on their lineage. So each is passed down to the abuser, and it's just like a very negative contract, and I help recalibrate those. There's a gentleman who came to see me from America who's been suffering from implants, where some negative ETs have been putting implants into him to stop him from progressing. So there's a nicer stuff to the nastier stuff I deal with. And from my own perspective, for people to be able to not have the implants, not have the attachments, the ghost feeding on them, is trauma. Healing the trauma, experiencing yourself. And what the psychic surgery does is help people feel illuminated, help people feel they can heal and they can go on and be happy. A lot of people have blockages from their happiness, and laughter is one of the main things I really recommend to people, to laugh and be silly and not to get too serious about things. We tend to be so serious about our own lives, and it's like, that's not spirituality. Like you were saying about your guides laughing and having a joke with you, that's what they're like. They like to laugh and they like to be trickstery and kind of have a bit of fun with us, because we need that at the moment. A lot's going on where we feel confused. The coronavirus is here. Maybe part 2 is coming in the next few months. So there's so much fear going to be pushed upon the planet. There's so many people's businesses are going to be lost. So we are really needing the self-healing at the moment. And for all those people who want a psychic surgery session, I'd really recommend giving it a go and listening and doing the advice. A lot and clients don't listen to what advice you give them. You can tell them no matter what you say to them, they won't listen, and they'll continue on doing the things they need to do. That's their own journey. But I'd like to appeal for those people who really feel they want to change. There's so many people. I want those clients who want to change. I want the clients who come to see me ready to change. There's so many, like I said before, clients who come and they want a quick fix. They want me to shake my rattle and wave my wand and they're all healed and that's it. It happens once a month, you're healed, you're fine. It's a process we have to bring into our everyday life.
Definitely. So if anyone wants to find you, Dale, where's the best place to find you?
So I'd recommend going to my Facebook page, Dale Tobin, The Healing Path, and just send me a message if you're wanting a session. I also do past life regression sessions as well, spiritual counselling. So just drop me a message on there as well. I've got a show called The Talking Stick Show on YouTube. So if you just type in Talking Stick Show, all together, no space, there's lots of episodes on there. The lovely Lindsay Banks as well is on one of those. And we'll be doing another one at some point in the next few days. So Facebook at the moment. My website is, at the moment, I'm like at the crossroads to finish the website, put money into it, but I'm just waiting to see what happens with the corona. I'm like at that point where I need to see what's going on before I then put money in and have it online, or there'll be no point of having it online until I'm out there doing it. So Instagram as well, Healing Path 27. So I'm on the social medias and update the page each day as well.
Awesome. So you're based in York. If people want to have sessions in person, aren't you? You've now got a place there, but you can do it obviously online as well. So location doesn't really matter, does it?
Which I'm guessing we'll be going back to by the sounds of everything at the moment. Back to the onlines.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much, Dale, for coming on and speaking with me on the spiritual journey. I really appreciate your time and your energy. So
thank you so much, Lindsay. It's been an honor, my darling. Thank you.